All right. Welcome back to season 2 of the Fresh Leadership Podcast. John Brown and Rob Ginta here. We have missed you guys. Man, it's been a bit.
Yeah, like half a year.
Has it really been half a
so.
year? We were set and scheduled to record season 2 in May, and then life happened.
A lot of life.
A lot of life happened. So we are back. It was never a question on whether or not we would be back. It was just a matter of when we would be back. So we want to talk about that here in our first episode of season 2. Just a little bit about life happening. My guess is you probably had some life happen in the last half a year.
Yep.
My guess is you probably had some unexpected things, some joy-filled things, maybe some sad things, maybe some really hard life things. And we want to just talk about our season and set you up for season 2, what that's going to look like. So we're really excited. Rob, what's been happening since we've last been together for Fresh Leadership Podcast?
Well, so many moving components because obviously we have our full-time jobs, our full-time, actually overtime families. In a good way, we love the Brown and Ginta families, to be clear. And then additionally, beyond even just us, there are a number of people that help put on Fresh Leadership Podcast, that donate their time and wisdom and knowledge that we don't have when it comes
Shout out to Marcus Kaufman, who's behind the camera right now.
So Marcus Kaufman approached us a couple weeks ago and was like, hey, I have a little bit of time to spare right now, or rather to donate to you guys right now. I want to see this thing come back up. So thank you, Marcus, for helping us get this going. But we've had Patrick Foster has helped produce this show before. And he was working on finishing some things at the school he was at and transferring into Journey Ministry College. So, I mean, huge win there. And now he's a full-time student at our school. We've had Nathan Lewis, who's also helped put on the show with his buddy Paul. And they're in between some pretty big moves in their business right now. So, again, it's a guy that's really invested in what's going on here. He's had stuff going on, and then Marcus is helping us happen.
And David Medina, who's also helped us with the podcast, is back as a student at Journey Ministry College as well. So really grateful. This wouldn't happen without all of them. And of course, we've had our own life
We've
stuff.
had our stuff. Yeah. Exactly. So I think the last time we recorded was March, maybe. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. So not quite half a year, but.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot has happened in March, April, May, I mean, all of the months leading up to this moment right here. You know, my wife and I, we got licensed through the Assemblies of God. Praise
Congrats.
God,
Yeah.
So that
The
was,
Rev.
I know, which is crazy.
Rev Ginta.
Reverends,
I
plural.
love it.
So
Reverends,
we had a couple things happen there for us. Obviously, there was the close of the Journey Ministry College year in the spring semester. And then we had just a lot going on this summer.
Rob, you're a soccer coach.
I am a soccer coach, and I got so I now have 3 coaching licenses through United States Soccer Federation. So my boys and I are now in academy soccer, which is fun, a whole different bear. It's fun that I get to coach both my older 2 boys at the same time on the same team and continue to have an impact on some families in our city, hopefully, and some young kids. So that's going on too. And then Pete John, you've been absolutely. So my wife Hannah, who has been serving as Pastor John's assistant for the last couple of years, she just got hired on here at Christian Life School as a freshman and sophomore Bible and worldview teacher. Which is incredible. So she's a full-time teacher now, and that's been the biggest adjustment to the Ginta family rhythms. So it's just required a lot out of us. I did a handful of weddings this summer as well. So there's just been quite a few things that have been happening in the Ginta household for sure.
And this is Hannah's first year as a teacher.
Correct.
But it fits so well with her life calling and mission as a discipler, right? And how super full circle for me, because my daughter Bella is in her class and being discipled by Hannah, and Hannah also happens to be one of her mentors. So, and don't tell anyone, but happens to be Bella's favorite teacher. So that's really special because I was Hannah's youth pastor. And
Yep.
so to have Hannah pouring into our students at Christian Life School is a very special moment.
Yeah, so a lot in the Ginta family, and then obviously so much happening in the Brown family since March. So what's the rundown there?
Well, our oldest, Bree, graduated from high school, and she's called to be an elementary education teacher. And so she went off to North Central University in Minneapolis.
We love NCU.
Yeah, NCU, and our alma mater, Janet and I's alma mater. And so pursuing her calling there. And so a lot of laughs this last season as we saw her graduate and then made the most of our summer and then sent her off to North Central. And so she's playing volleyball there and loves it, has an incredible group of friends. But in the same week that we brought her off to college, we also had my mom's celebration of life as my mom passed away unexpectedly from cancer. And you might be wondering, unexpectedly from cancer. We really thought that she was healed, and both in faith and also just what we were seeing with her health physically. And so her health took a turn for the worse in mid-July and really went down fast. And so that was hard. That was really hard, to be honest with you. I've never experienced loss like that before. And my mom is my hero. So there's a whole lot of emotions I'm still working through. And that is really what we're going to be talking about in our next episode.
Yep.
Because Rob also lost his dad in this last year, who was his hero as well. And so I don't think we talk enough about grief and how to grieve as a Christian and what does grief look like. And I know not all of you might be going through a season of grieving, but you probably know somebody who's going through a season of grieving, and maybe you have been through that and are still working through that, or maybe you will go through that. But I think it's something that's super important to talk about. From all of those aspects. And so we're going to unpack that next time. But lots of life, just with family as well. My girl's playing volleyball. Janet's coaching now going into the fall. She's coaching Brooklyn's team. And so we got full schedules. But at the forefront of those full schedules, you'll probably hear hints and clues into our priorities, right? What are our priorities when it comes to busy seasons, full seasons, hard seasons? We have to have a center. We have to have a bullseye that we're shooting for, our purpose and our people that we are giving our lives to, that we're called to steward. And so in the making of these decisions to put the podcast on hold, which, by the way, we love y'all.
Yes.
This is one of our joys, one of the things we look forward to the most. Hearing your feedback whenever you come, and shout out to those of you who came up this last Sunday and said how much you missed the podcast and how much you appreciate it and can't wait for it to be back. For all of you who have said that, that's fuel for us. But this is a passion point for both of us.
It is.
And a part of our purpose. But we had to put it on pause because there were some higher priorities. And so, Rob, when we made this decision, I think it's important for all of you who are listening to understand the process, because this has come through trial and error. We've made mistakes in this area in the past. How do we make a decision to say no to the good things in exchange for God's best things? So how do we say our best yes?
That is a great question that we are still figuring out. Also, by the way, you forgot to mention one thing before all that happening. You guys moved into a new home.
We did move into a new home.
Oh, so yeah, that was also
yes.
Really massive
we built
things.
A home. So all while we were in the middle of recording the podcast, we were in the process of building. But the last 2 months are the most stressful for sure. So we moved in May, and I've been enjoying that gift. A true answer to prayer. A dream home for us. Still pinching myself. Still getting to enjoy it, but also giving to give it away. One of the things God spoke to us when we were praying over the land was, this is not your home just for you. You're going to use it to be a blessing. And so we probably over-blessed this last spring and summer in opening up our home and have big dreams to host pastors' retreats there and those kinds of things. But really, really grateful. It's not ours. We're open-handed with it. It's the Lord's. So yeah, it's been been a fun season and a hard season, and both. Really.
Well, and I bring that up to partially answer the question that you're asking. there are seasons of life, just like we see seasons, at least up here in Wisconsin, we see seasons, you know,
Right.
spring, summer, really briefly, fall for a second, and then, 5 seasons of winter. But we have a change of season up here that we experience naturally, obviously, but there are seasons of life, to use maybe overused Christian lingo, if you will. But I think it's a really good way of expressing there are periods that there are different focuses.
Yep.
And obviously, you're moving into a new home. Your firstborn's graduating high school, going off to college. Your mom's health. Additionally, in there as well, you guys, as an entire family, took a mission trip together, which is a dream of the Ginta family. So there were different demands on the Brown household, literally,
Right.
that in that season, there was more of a family focus shift. And I would say, and you could probably know this better than me, but now we're in the fall season, things are getting settled. There's a shift back to workplace focus and for your girls, school, obviously, and sports again, for Janet, coaching and various forms of coaching.
Right.
So I think we need to, first of all, bust the myth of one of the most frequent questions that I get, at least, that I'm sure you've received a number of times too, is how do you do a work-life balance? And I think that if we're beginning with that paradigm, you will perpetually be falling off the work-life tightrope that you're trying to walk on. I think we need to bust that myth that there's supposed to be this work-life balance. I had a mentor of mine one time, someone that I look up to. I can't remember who said this. I wish I could remember. But this person said you need to stop seeing it as this tightrope where you're balancing and see it more as either a pendulum shift or just like in general, like a momentum shift. Yeah. There are different times that, okay, I have a period right now where I can focus more on family, or I should focus more on family. Not that I'm neglecting work, but this is just the focus and emphasis right now. And then there are other times where I need to focus more on work. Again, not that I'm neglecting family. And I think that if we allow ourselves to shift into those momentums, and also in the midst of those momentums be absolutely present wherever we are, you're not going to feel as much tension between work, life, home, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So I think that that's the first thing is, what is this season, and there are going to be shifts that happen. So there are some things that I know on my calendar. I know that August, September, in particular, work-heavy months for me. Yeah. The school year's starting up. There are typically more speaking engagements that come up around that time. My kids' school and sports is starting up, and again, I coach their teams. So there are just things like that I know, all right, my focus is shifting a little bit, where in the summer maybe the kids have off school. Okay, I have a little bit more time with them. I can be a little bit more family focused in the summer. Summer's more of a dreaming time typically, and a rehashing time for what we want the next school year to be for us. So again, just knowing there are certain times in my calendar every year, and knowing what are those momentum shifts, and I can plan for that. But then there are other things that come up unexpectedly,
Right.
where you have to pivot on the fly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to your wisdom.
Yeah,
on some
and
of
we
these
all have
things.
different seasons, right? Your season looks different than mine. We have kids, so a lot of you listening, you have kids. You probably get this, but your life and schedule kind of revolves around your kids and their school schedule. But if you're a student, it would be similar. So there's not a lot of disconnect there. But yours is a little different because you oversee a ministry college. You oversee Journey Ministry College. So a lot of your ebbs and flows, busy seasons really tend to be around the same time that the student's busy season is.
Right.
For me, obviously not a ton different, but I just want to point out that we all have different seasons. Your job is to be a student of your seasons. And one of the ways that we made the decision to not do the podcast for these last couple of months is I think really comes from trial and error and mistakes that we've made. But one of the voices of wisdom in my life talked about it in this way. They said, in light of your past experiences, your past mistakes, your past uh, uh, moments where you made the wrong decision when it comes to your schedule, right? You overpacked your schedule. You said way too many yeses and not enough nos. In light of your past experiences and your past failures, in light of your current reality, and in light of your future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing to do? Right? So part of that is I have to look at, I've made some mistakes at overpacking my schedule before. Yeah. And I've noticed for me, if I don't have a lot of margin and I overpack my schedule, I say way too many yeses and not enough nos, I don't look as much like Jesus. Maybe the rest of you are superheroes on that, but I don't display the fruits of the Spirit like I want to. I don't show up as the dad that I want to be. I'm not the husband that I want to be. I'm not the leader that I want to be. I don't notice people as much. I don't walk in as much step with the Holy Spirit. My times with the Lord look a little more checklisty and a lot less intimate, right? So the more yeses I say, the less margin I have, the less I look like Jesus. That's not the goal. I never start my year going, man, I want to look a lot less like Jesus. Nobody dreams to be a lot less like Jesus. But I'm unintentionally becoming that when I say way more yeses than I should, right? So in light of my past mistakes, maybe you're going into the fall season and in your past mistakes, you said way too many yeses in the fall season and it got you stressed, filled with anxiety. You weren't getting enough sleep. You weren't spending enough time with Jesus. And so you look at your last fall or the last couple of falls and you go, man, I said too many yeses. So I'm going to pay attention to that and my proclivity to say way too many yeses. And I'm going to be more careful going into this fall. This season, I'm going to say better yeses. So look at that. Don't beat yourself up. If you're in a season where you said way too, and you're living in the reality of too many yeses, don't beat yourself up. Learn from it. And say, next time I get to the season, I'm going to remember what that felt like, and I'm not going to make that. But also my current reality. I couldn't plan for my mom passing away. I didn't know. And so I had to look at our current reality, and as many yeses as we had said in April and May and June, there was a lot of no's that we said in July and August.
Yep.
And we had to, because grief is real.
Oh, yeah.
And that period of mourning was very real. So looking at your current reality and what you're facing, maybe you're a student, you have lots on your plate, you probably need to say more no's. And then my future hopes and dreams, like what is ground zero for me? What is it that God's called me to steward? How do you say your yeses and no's? You've said some no's recently. What are some things you said no to, Rob? And maybe walk us through the process of why you said no. It's probably hard to say no.
Yeah. Well, it is funny that you mention it because I think these last 2 months, I've been asked 4 times to speak at a youth ministry or next gen event. And we have a similar passion where we're all about investing in the next generation. We spent essentially our entire working career doing exactly that. And I want to say yes to as many of those opportunities as I can. Yep. But right now, I've had to say no, even to friends that I want to link arms with and I believe in their ministries. I've had to say no because in this period, my wife, as we mentioned earlier, she just took a job as a full-time teacher. That is a serious, and we've learned that this last month. It is a serious position that requires a lot outside of classroom hours. So it's created a serious shift within the Jinta family rhythms. And there are certain things that we want to protect, like our shared Sabbath time, which we've talked about before. We want to protect those things. We want to protect our family time. So in this season, the first time, I've been with Hannah for 11 years, first time that she's ever said, we are going to honor our commitments that we've already said yes to. Right. However, at this time, any extracurricular things, we're just going to have to say no, or not yet to some of those. And we'll trust. Here's the other thing too, really quick sidebar on giving your best yes. We believe in the sovereignty of God. And something that has made saying no easier is God is so good and he's so rich in blessing that sometimes we treat the good opportunity in front of us as the last opportunity that God will give us. And that's just not the case. God is so good and he's so sovereign. I can say no to this. Hey, there's going to be something different that comes up months, maybe years down the road that is just as good, if not oftentimes better. I'm more mature. I'm more focused, whatever it might look like. So yes, as bummed as I am that I can't be speaking at those events right now, what I said no to is speaking at those events. What I'm saying yes to is I'm focusing on my relationship with my wife. Personally, I'm, one of the things that we're doing because she's teaching Bible and worldview. Last night we were up till 10:30 p.m., which is late for the Jintas. We weren't watching Netflix. We've actually canceled our Netflix account because we just don't have time for it. We were up, and she was teaching her class to me, and I was giving feedback on fun things about the reliability of the Bible. And we were having so much fun nerding out, looking through the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are available online, and seeing, oh my gosh, this is exactly, we were looking through the scroll of Isaiah. And that was fun building for us in faith. And additionally, she feels extremely prepared to give that class today because she's already run it through once. Similar to, we never preach for the very first time when people see us on platform. Typically, we've rehearsed it at least a few times, and at least in our experience together, we typically run our sermons by each other.
And we did that with the podcast. We ran our conversation before we ever hit record.
Exactly. So we talk about those things so that we come better prepared into these situations.
Right.
So now I'm giving my wife that opportunity as a teacher, where the reality is, if I was out speaking last night,
right,
the thing I would have been saying no to was time with my wife, time with her feeling prepared for her calling. And my wife has sacrificed so much for my own calling. It is a joy to be able to return that for her and hers and see her come alive and what she's graced for.
Right. Yeah. I think the important thing that maybe you did or didn't catch, Rob talked to you about his ground zero. What are the bullseye of his purpose, right? What God's called Rob to, that no one else can be responsible to steward, but God's called you to steward. And you have to be a good steward of those things first before you can steward other things, right? That's how you say your best yes and your best no, is you need to get crystal clear on what you are called to steward, what God has called Rob Jinta to steward. And I have to get crystal clear. My calling does not look the same as Rob's. There's some similarities, but I'm not called to steward Rob's personal discipleship, right? Only Rob can be responsible for that. I'm not called to pastor and disciple Rob's kids. That's only something that Rob can do. So you only get one shot at that. So knowing crystal clear, and I know some of us have families, some of us don't, you have to get crystal clear on what you are called to steward. What is your chazon? Craig Rochelle has a book called Chazon, Chazon. It's the Hebrew word for purpose or vision. What is God's bullseye for your life? And it helps, it's some really incredible tools that help you to discover what that is for you. Your bullseye, your ground zero, your best yeses, your purpose and calling. And so for those of you who are maybe still trying to figure that out, that's a great resource. I think you can go to chazon.com, Chazon. It's a Hebrew word, so it's kind of pronounced like chazown, but that will help you to discover that. Rob's done the hard work of doing that. So talk us through the process of saying no. You get this opportunity to speak. It seems like it would fit within your chazon or your bullseye, right? Because you are called to be a preacher and a teacher, and you haven't been doing as much of that as you would like recently. So that was probably a really difficult no. Help the listeners, help those that are listening, like when it seems like it fits in your chazon, but it's a really difficult no, but you did it, and maybe walk us through that thought process just real briefly.
I have to trust again that those opportunities will arise again. And they already, it's funny that you're saying that, because as I'm saying no to these events right now, At the same time, I had a friend of mine, Pastor Gabe Withers, text me saying, "Hey, would you be available to come and speak at my youth conference end of February, early March?" And I said, "Yeah, that's actually great timing for the Genta family. I can do that." And
So pause.
go ahead.
It might be the right opportunity, but the wrong timing.
Oof. That's
right?
it.
So knowing your season, being a student of what is good and what isn't, being prophetic about your current reality and even your what's coming up, like looking ahead at the calendar and going, man, this is going to deplete me. I can't do this. This is gonna not be good for my family. It's not my best yes for Hannah, right? But you did get another opportunity, even though
Right
you
there.
probably feared, like, is there going to be opportunity? Is this going away after this? But God gave you another opportunity, and you're stewarding that well because it's the right opportunity and the right timing.
I'd like to think so at
Yeah.
least. So, and that happened. So there's family things going on with Hannah. There's this coaching position that I've taken, and when you're an academy coach, there are understandably way
Right.
more significant responsibilities as an academy coach compared to just a rec coach or whatever. So I need to be faithful to that, and I'm saying yes to that because I want to be involved in my boys' life.
Yeah.
Any opportunity I have to create more spheres where our lives can overlap, I'm going to say yes to that right
Yeah.
now. So I have that with them, and then additionally, I use that as an opportunity not to just make my boys better athletes, hopefully, but also because they go to a private Christian school here, we see this as an opportunity to, hey, who are people, friends in our city
Right.
that don't know Jesus yet, that we can have a positive impact on those players, on their parents, on those families, and give them the love of Jesus and the
right.
principles. I have all boys on my team this year, and I'm like, I've told the parents countless times, I care so much more about them becoming respectable young men
Right.
in the future and now that I'm going to coach them more on that than even on skills. Not that
Yeah.
so anyway, I want to say yes to that. And then additionally, we know Hannah and I were leading a Kingdom Builder trip to Thailand for 11 days in the middle of October. So I already know I'm going to be away from my family
Yeah.
quite a bit in
Right.
this season. So right now, it wouldn't make sense for me to be away from them more than I
So good.
already have said
Yep.
yes to.
Yep.
Because I don't want to miss out on their life moments right now. But
Yeah.
then again, spring, things slow down a bit.
Yep.
There's more time. How about you? Any things that you've said?
Yeah.
That you can.
Again, I'm hearing what you're saying through that lens that we talked about at the beginning. In light of my past experiences and maybe failures, in my current reality, you're looking at this Kingdom Builders trip to Thailand as a current reality, and you're in light of my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing to do, right? So you made that. I think about, for all of you who are listening, that can apply to anything that you might be saying yes to, even going and hanging out with friends. Hey, I have had a lot of late nights. I've said a lot of yeses to my friends. I've been hanging out with them. I want to hang out with them again, but I regretted it the last 3 nights in a row. And so in light of my past experiences, my current reality, and my future hopes and dreams, this might not be the best yes, right? So for us, one of those moments where I recently had to say no, one of our values is community. And again, I mentioned earlier, blessing people with our home. And we had the opportunity, a really cool opportunity. Someone gifted us with a personal chef, and they said, you can invite several friends over. And we thought, man, that'll be so amazing. We'll go out on the patio. We'll do it in an evening here this fall and invite friends over, and this personal chef. It's going to be a date night for Janet and I. It's going to be our community surrounding us. Really beautiful opportunity. But Janet and I realized after being home with my family that we were still grieving quite a bit. And as much as we wanted to do that, we were feeling the weight of that grief, the heaviness of that grief. And it was really hard to say no to an opportunity that we really wanted to say yes to. And Janet said, I'm going to leave the decision up to you. But I knew, after praying about it and spending some time with Jesus, that she needed some time, and that I needed some time. And so we had to say no to something that felt really good and really right and like it could really be perfect, even in light of our grief, to surround ourselves with friends. So that was a hard no, but I had to, and you know what? I had to be the prophetic voice for our family in making that decision. I had to be discerning. I had to spend time with Jesus because everything in me was screaming yes. But as I took time to slow down and listen to the voice of Holy Spirit, he was saying no and gently reminding me of some of my past experiences where I regretted saying yes. And so you might wrestle with that. Maybe you're a people pleaser. Maybe you struggle with FOMO and you want to be with all of your friends and you don't want to miss anything, but you know how it's made you feel. You know how it sets you back. You know how it's caused other things to be a snowball effect of wrong choices and not being not looking a whole lot like Jesus. And so I think that's a great filter to put your decisions through as you look into this next season, going into the fall. I love the fall. Fall is one of my favorite seasons. May you learn to look at your past experiences, to look at your current reality and your future hopes and dreams, the calling that's on your life. And may you learn to listen to the voice of Holy Spirit as you make those decisions so you can say your best yeses in this new season of life for you.
Yep. That's so good. Well, that's all what we have time for today, but we're so glad to be back.
Glad to be back. So pumped to be back.
We're pumped for season 2, and part of that momentum shift that we were talking about earlier, I think we're going to be focusing on some different things season 2 than we were initially anticipating, and that's
absolutely
fine.
Yeah.
We are following the momentum of Holy Spirit right now into season 2, and there's just so much that's happened these last 6 months and so much that God's put on our hearts that I believe right now is the time. And when Holy Spirit's got the hot hand, you give him the ball, right? So we're going to be doing that. We're excited to be with you in our next episode, and also with some fun guests that will be on this season
pumped.
as well.
Some of our friends.
Excited to introduce you to some more of our friends. But thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.